Hello, welcome to our last episode of 2024 Inter-University Debates here at Civic Space TV show. Do not forget, as usual, to follow us on the different social media platforms, that is Facebook, X, that is former Twitter, and Instagram. And please come to our YouTube channel, please subscribe, leave a comment in case the topic is as enticing as it is like impacting on yourself. So please always comment every time we upload something. If you have something to say about the different shows, or if you have anything to add or challenge, or just anything. So we are once again the Inter-University Debates, and today your host is Derek Mugabe. I'll be sitting in for someone. Yeah, so I'll see if I can maybe measure up to their shoes somehow. So today we have a topic which is going to be as challenging as the previous one that we had. And as usual, me, I'm always here to drive the show and get informed as well. So today I'll actually not be just informed, I'll be educated. So our topic of the day is going to be students' perspectives on constitutionalism and rule of law in Uganda. And of course, if you hear constitutionalism and rule of law, I know you expect a lot of big wigs in the law community and stuff. And here they are. I'm just saying this so they don't get to say they are not yet lawyers, so they might not have a say. So yeah. I'll begin from my right here, Mr. Please introduce yourself to the audience, tell us what you do, and yeah.
Yes, thank you very much, Derek. My name is Ginyera George Oroch. I'm a fourth-year law student at Makerere University. And at Makerere, and most importantly actually to the show, I also served as the Minister for Constitutional Affairs in the 89th Guild and also the 89th GRC for the School of Law. Pleasure being here, and thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ginyara. So you see, we have the right people in the house tonight. And over to the next person.
Thank you so much, Derek. My name is Brian Aruho. I'm a fourth-year law student at Cavendish University, Uganda, where I formerly served as the guild president, the 15th. But most importantly to the show, I did serve as the speaker of the Cavendish Law School and the vice president of the network of public interest lawyers, the Cavendish University chapter.
Well, you guys have held offices of influence. Interesting. And yeah, the gentleman next to Aroho.
Thank you. My name is Alex Wamakota. I'm the acting executive secretary of A New Bold Vision. Yeah, maybe I also want to say I congratulate Tanzania upon reaching 63 years of independence.
Oh, thank you so much. And the last comrade?
Yes, my name is Masawi Ivan. I'm a graduate student at Uganda Technology and Management University. I want to take this venture and congratulate Kyambogo University that has also had its graduation this very month. It has closed, I think, graduations in the country. I did my bachelor's from Kyambogo, where I graduated in mechatronics and biomedical engineering.
Oh,
so I'm into engineering practice as well. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. So I feel intimidated that I also have to tag myself to the law somehow. But the closest I've been is media law in one of my semesters back at school. So at least we had someone, I don't recall what her name was from the law school, but I think she was the most stylish lecturer you guys had. When I say most stylish, you have a name. The guys who've been at Makerere, you might know her. It's not Sally, that's her. Oh my, I can't even recall her name. Jesus, I'm that. But anyways, the show must go on. So our topic of the day is students' perspective on constitutionalism and the rule of law in Uganda. So since you guys already have been or are still holding those positions of influence at your different universities or at your different organizations, I would like you guys to begin by pointing us to the different contemporary challenges to constitutionalism and rule of law in Uganda. What have you seen? Could be this year or the past year or something, the different challenges that you have seen by far.
Yes, thank you very much, Derek. And I think the topic is of very big essence owing to the current states that we are in Uganda, and owing actually to the season that we're heading to, the 2026 election cycle. And I think important to the discussion is that the election period in Uganda, like very many African states and unlike very many Western democracy, is prone to abuses of the rule of law and also disregard to constitutionalism. But also most important to point out maybe the distinction between the two concepts of constitutionalism before we head to the challenges and also rule of law. And I think Uganda has actually had a very illustrious history of constitutionalism from the period that we got colonial power in Uganda to the period after independence, 1962, where we had our first promulgated constitution in Uganda in 1962. Fast forward to when it was abrogated in 1966, to when it was also removed in 1971 with the coming of Idi Amin, to what we had a semblance of constitutional power through the period of BNI, Issa, Yusuf Lule and all those leaders, to when we had our constitution now, the one that we're using currently, the 1995 Constitution of Uganda, which is actually a document that superintends over the legal structure that we have in Uganda. Important to note still is the difference between a constitution and also constitutionalism. Owing that in Uganda we have the constitution. Yes, it's there, the 1995 constitution. It's there, and no one doubts that. But the process of following the ones in the constitution is now what we call constitutionalism. A country that is governed by the constitution that it abides to. And very many, I know there will be very many discussions, contrasting views in as regards to whether the constitutionalism is actually a thing in Uganda. Where when you look at our Bill of Rights, Article 20 to 50, the right to a fair hearing, the right to the right to freedom of expression, the right to association, whether all those things are actually being followed. Then the rule of law, I think in the basic sort of sense, is what we have today, that with all the existent laws, are they actually also being followed? That when a person goes to court, are they going through due process? Are citizens, regardless of their origin, regardless of their sex, regardless of their gender, regardless of their tribe, are they all equal before and under the law? And that is the concept of rule of law. And like I've mentioned, through Uganda's history, riddled with all these things, wars, coups and whatnot, constitutionalism has actually not been a very big concept up until the promulgation of the 1995 Constitution. And also equally important to note, our constitution actually is one of the best documents on paper all over the world.
I love how you quote it, documents on paper.
Yeah, because the constitution is actually a document. What you have, I could have come with possibly a copy, but I know, and even one of the challenges with our constitution is actually people don't know what these things are actually about. So, like I mentioned earlier before, is that constitutionalism as a concept or as a thing in Uganda has actually faced very many challenges. And I think our basis of reckoning today will be the period post the 1995 Constitution when it was promulgated, because there are very many challenges to do with that. I think most importantly around this period is that the basic, the single most important story I could pick out in the complete disregard of the Constitution and also the rule of law is how the BCJ case has been handled. And there are very many other things that can be handled in how opposition persons are being handled in the country. Because if today we are to say that persons have a right to express themselves and their views in whatever format they may think, persons have a right to assembly, persons have a right to association, that me today, Derek, has a right to associate with NRM, has a right to associate with NUP, without the requisite repercussions as we see them in our country, then that is the basic foundation of the Constitution. Yes. So if we, today, a person like Kizza Besigye can go out to Kenya and then thereafter repatriated and taken to Chad in the military court, I don't think that would be a very good example, or that would show that our country is actually following the dot of the Constitution. And the Constitution, our Constitution, unlike very many, has gone through insurmountable change, that there are basic tenets of the Constitution that has actually been touched or changed or amended. One of them in 2005 was the age limit. I think 2005 or 2006 was the age limit. And more contemporarily was the term limit in 2017, which have been, I think, in my opinion, total disregards of the safeguards that were put in the Constitution. Because what we have today, and our preamble of the Constitution says it very well, that owing to our past history, we hereby abide ourselves to this document in this contemporary form. So when you have, for example, in the early stages of the Constitution, just 10 years after it was promulgated, and the age limit being removed. And then after, in 2017, the term limit being removed. It takes us back actually to the period that we are in. I think in a wrap-up, just to give context to the discussion, it's very hard for constitutionalism to thrive in authoritarian states like we have. Because today, and the current government that you have today, there's a lot of dissent, and that goes without saying. So to tame that dissent, the government will enforce means that go contrary to whatever principle is enshrined in that article or the Bill of Rights. That for a person to be produced before court, they must undergo a fair trial. And the basic example, basically, I don't think what is going through right now is actually a fair trial. Because when one of the lead counsels has been denied practicing certificate, which is something quite unfortunate. What you have today is that even in a very micro society like Makerere today, when students engage in strikes for government money, people are being suspended even before a hearing is had. So the contemporary challenges that we have in Uganda today for the rule of law and constitutionalism are hinged on the fact that what you have as a government today is not that respects constitutionalism. Actually, it doesn't respect it. It's a very authoritarian government that is very high-handed, where it's not rule-based. These rules, actually, most of them were promulgated during the time that we've been in existence right now. But there's not been goodwill or enough goodwill on the side of government to actually follow the rules by which it enacted. Yeah. So there's a lot, and I know during the course of the show there's going to be a lot of discussion in regards to the thematic areas of constitutionalism and the rule of law.
Oh, thank you so much, Ginyera. And over to you, Brian. Could you like a bit paint for us a picture of some of the contemporary challenges, as you of course give a bit of an overview of what the rule of law in Uganda is and maybe constitutionalization?
All right, thank you so much. Firstly, I want to commend everything you have said. I think it's the basic understanding of the state of constitutionalism in Uganda. He has given you not only because we have something we study while in year one called constitutional history, which he has briefly passed through, and I think it's quite a very nice insight. Because we can't say challenges without hitting certain things. We need to, I think at a certain stage he said, have a difference between the constitution and constitutionalism, but then also have a difference between rule of law and rule by law, which are very different things. And he has told you, we are just some few years back, four years back, we were in for general elections.
Mm-hmm.
We saw how the law can be used by he who holds power at the end, though it's the constitution and constitutionalism is supposed to be embraced by all people in the country. We saw how political will and how he holds the barrel of the gun can dictate what the gun is used for. And we are moving in, I mean. First of all, this year is already done. We are remaining with a few days to say Happy New Year to 2025. But we understand that 2025 one is coming in with NRM primaries, political party primaries, and then going into 2026, and then post-modern going into 2027. For anyone who wants to understand where we are standing as a country legally, I think should wait for next year. Around June, July, you'll see. It doesn't beat any understanding. We are going to have lots of cries, not only by people contesting, but people in media. We are going to have journalists being beaten. We are going to have activists somehow disappearing. Mm-hmm. We are going to have politicians being ridiculed here and there. You're going to have a lot of unconstitutionalism happening. And to those, obviously, that support the system in power will say, no, I think we're just trying to, these people who are spreading hate speech. We are going to have all those talks coming around.
We always do.
Yes, as we have always done. I mean, he said, with regards to any other African country, the stages that we pass through, and not just African countries, I think even globally, developing nations have that stage that they undergo. So to understand constitutionalism, in Uganda, we've tried to break it down to the Bill of Rights. That most of us have looked at constitutionalism from, do I have a freedom of speech? which should be before, during, and after, but is it guaranteed? Do we have the basics right to education? Do we have the basics right of life? I mean, this general basic discussions that we should be having, not only as a child that I ought to have something and it must be done, to me, a university student, to someone in medicine, to someone in politics, to someone in judiciary, someone in uniform. It's the same discussion. So, but obviously we've had our challenges, which has talked about. We've had continuous amendments. You know, every time you have an amendment, it can go both ways, positive and negative. I don't want to say the extent we've reached to, but we've had a lot of amendments, especially with regards to the Constitution. And every time you have an amendment, something goes off. There is always an element that goes off. Because you can amend a certain article, which is going to help you, but it's going to deprive people. So I think we've, as per the rule of law, we've had a lot of amendments, especially with regards to our Constitution, which have put us off. But then also we've had in the previous elections we had issues regarding a lot of issues regarding data privacy. We had a lot of issues regarding infringements. So you have a lot. We had the shutdown of Facebook. It's just a stepping stone. You know, Rome wasn't built in a day, and injustice can never be built in a day. So the more you have a deterioration of constitutionalism and rule of law, then the more you have injustices and ruled by the law. I would leave the floor to my colleague.
Thank you so much, Ruho, for painting for us that picture of constitutionalism and then the Constitution and then the rule of law and rule by law. So I will allow the gentleman next to you to also try to give us some bit of perspective.
Thank you so much. I'm not a legal scholar. I think neither do I intend to be one.
Makes three of us. Don't worry.
Yeah, but
he actually intends to do a diploma. He mentioned
No,
it
he said
sometime
he said if he ever thinks of it or dreams about it in his sleep, he'll wake up and shower. So that it goes.
Yeah.
All right, I think
Become sober.
But I'm a responsible Ugandan who needs to understand the basics of the law. So I try as much as I can to make sure I understand the basics. If it needs reading something from law school, I do. Then my course also had some, I think around 4 or 5 course units from law school. So
that was quite a
I'm
number.
not that, I think, green, but I'm also a politician, so definitely the law and politicians move hand in hand. Now, constitutionalism, to me, to an individual perspective, is the set law, the supreme law of the land, and how we abide by that law. We can have the constitution in place. It's a paper. Now, respect for the law is individual responsibility, because you can choose not to. If the rule of law is not existent, the constitution, people can choose not to follow it, because it's just a paper. It's just a law put in place. I'll give an example. If you're driving on a road and there is a very small and tiny traffic officer, he'll just raise the hand and you'll stop your car. You have the ability to knock him off and go. But now, the fact that there is a force that will follow you up to the dot when you do that is what now I refer to as constitutionalism. The fact that we are responsible enough to follow the law to the dots now. That's when it's existent, in place. Now, the rule of law is the fact that me, Wamakota, as if I bring it to the context of a student, as a guild minister, and a common student down there in Chikoni are all following the same law. If there is a law for us to do something, it doesn't exempt me from being a minister. Understand? Now, in a country like Uganda, we can have a law against corruption. We have a law against building in wetlands.
Mm.
We have various laws. That when I woke up one day and bought land somewhere in a gazetted wetland and I set up a structure, constitutionalism will apply, the law will apply. But there is an individual who will put it there and the law won't. So that is defying the rule of law. We have some people that without anywhere written, they are above the law. Now, when we have, I think, in a country that chooses to defy the rule of law, there needs to be, I don't totally disagree with defying the rule of law. If the leadership is very, very sober, I think defying the rule of law in some states like Russia, it's okay. When, yes, the constitution is there, but also what the president says is very key. But the advantage there is what the president says is so much in line with the interests of the population. But in a country where people will get, we have someone pardoned for corruption, and then they are taking up an office, you know, to fight corruption, you really see that we might not have the rule of law any soon in the country.
Very interesting points.
Oh, thank you so much. But I would also like to pick your mind on what challenges as a politician have you seen?
There are many and they are very visible. One, you see, you don't have a right to express yourself openly. You cannot openly disagree with some people in the government, and that's what politicians are meant to. Two, we don't have our constitutional rights to do some things if the constitution allows me to demonstrate. Recently, under the Progressive Youth Movement, we wrote to the Speaker to show our dissatisfaction with the manner how the Parliament operates and the high levels of corruption at Parliament. Being an epitome of lawmaking, we cannot be exhibiting that level of corruption. So we requested the Speaker to receive our petition. We wrote to the IGP. The IGP said they cannot clear a march of the young people, but they can clear 5 people to walk to Parliament and send a petition. We walked 4 people to Parliament and they stopped us. The police stopped us. We showed them a letter of the IGP. The person in charge said, tell the IGP, me who is in charge of Parliament security. I've said no. So it's tricky. People are being tried in military courts, civilians in military courts. We are having abductions in the country, though they have reduced of recent, but you saw that more so when we came out of the 2021 election. There are various abductions of people in the country. Right now we have retired Colonel Kiza Besigye in a military court. He was abducted from a country which wasn't in Uganda. So without where our jurisdiction stops, you know. So there are very many challenges. They are visible. If we chose to speak about them, we might spend the whole show discussing the challenges.
Which we might actually do, but in bits. So thank you so much for that submission. And next to our general, yeah, what is your take? What's your kind of perspective in regards to the Constitution, constitutionalism, rule of law, and rule by law? You see, I'm being educated here now.
First, I want to appreciate my fellow panelists. They have really given a good preamble, but also benchmark on what it is and what it should be. I want to appreciate Center for Constitutional Governance. This year, it marked the Constitutional Day, but also try to put up something to help young people know what the constitution and constitutionalism should be by imposing, set up a constitutional museum. This country, you know, I think my brother Guinera gave a good history, whether you start from Legico, whether you start from the coming of the Britain here. You can remember we are part of the Otto von Bismarck, the German We have had our traditional law here in kingdoms and family settings. That was rubbished for us to adopt European systems of dealing with law so that they create jobs for people to wear suits and look bright.
These ones here.
Judges to wear like
We
clothes.
see them.
Judges to wear like clothes and wear a lot of too much weight or garbage clothes and sit and.
How heavy is that thing?
There are too many clothes, is weight. So we have had our history as a country and all that. You know, before I even give you, I come from Eastern Uganda. We have served this country's 4 speakers. Narendra M. Patel was from Bali constituency, where me and Alex come from. We were under Bali constituency, and he was our representative in 1962 as the first speaker. In 1994-95, the Constituent Assembly was by James Wapahabulo, who was still representing both of us here, the same constituency where we belonged then. Then we have Kadaga and Anita Among. They are all from Eastern Uganda. So it is not strange that the people who are, because the speaker were almost a custodian to call the Constitution. So when we are discussing a Constitution, we need to also discuss, because you agree with me or not, compliance, implementation and application will be easier depending on how the custodians and leaders comply and respect those documents. If a president is a law-abiding president, he never went to the bush, he doesn't believe in the gun more than paper, he will basically have too much respect for the Constitution. If a president was brought by the constitutional mandate into power, he will eventually. None of our Ugandan presidents have ever been brought by the Constitution. They have all come as those who came as rebels, those who came as good luck. Good luck fell Binayisa. Where would such luck come from for you to become a president? Good luck fell Yule, who was UNLF chairman and had Museveni as his second in command to help him. Good luck fell Amin by Obote trying to spoil his relationship with the Uganda at the center. Obote's catastrophes are related to bad luck here in Uganda for his attacking the king. Is how they interpret it. So, giving you that when we want to discuss constitutionalism and rule of law, my brothers here have studied law in general. I've only done business law by Dr. Resmas Rotechura. The issue we discuss is compliance of Chapter 1 of the Constitution of Uganda. Do we implement Chapter 1? Do we even disseminate information on constitutionalism? Do we practice? What do we edit? Because it is the first chapter. They use the word, it is chapter ab initio, given it is the first to open the document. It gives you what the document, what constitutionalism should be in terms of the literature, but also the actions, it designs, it is a design, it is a framework. In our traditional setting, our values and characters were in Bugisu. There are things women were not, even the sitting posture of a woman was determined in our culture and values. That was our constitution. That at this age you need to get circumcised, you don't need to negotiate. At this age you need to leave your father's house, you don't need to negotiate. That there is broke or what. There were rules of farm. You never need to say less. Constitutionalism is a value, whereas the Constitution may be a document. As long as our values don't reflect respect for what is put into ink. Because the Constitutionalism like being a Christian. If you read the Bible too much, is the Bible a bad document to any Christian on the planet? It is not. It gives all the remedies to sin and it also shows you all the sins. But you can leave your woman at home. By the time you get out of the gate, you've already your eyes and habits have led you to crime. So constitutionalism is a value.
If you've looked,
it is not symbolic. We have tried to make the issue of constitutionalism in our country look as if it is okay. We know we have a grand editorial that Museveni is the constitution and is the constitution. Whenever he bends the values of the constitution, he disrespects all the other people. He disrespects all that lot of the 1995 Constitutional Assembly delegates who came to represent our districts to see that we, whenever you go and twist it around to fit your interest, you cheat. He cheats us. We should have had like 3-4 presidents now. Us, not him, but us. We are cheated whenever he bends it. You know, people think that he's doing it for his selfish interest. If Aruho was supposed to be the president between 2026 to 2031, it means Aruho will be disadvantaged by Museveni's incumbents. So Ugandans have all lost what they would have tapped new from Aruho, but even Aruho has lost in his life an opportunity because of someone extending his what was already planned, that we don't need to be selfish. Whenever you disrespect constitutionalism, you disrespect values, you disrespect cultures. When he gave you a case scenario of how institutions and systems in this country have degenerated to the extent that an IGP who heads the police in the law, someone can discredit a letter of an IGP, yet that person in command or in hierarchy in its organizational structure should not even question the IGP, even if he told him on a parade in the military that you remove your shirt and kneel down. By the time they take the constitutional mandate and obligation to get a letter, because Parliament even don't need the IGP in our constitution to grant you access to Parliament. You choose one fellow among you in your constituency to always send there, whom it could even have been him. You should be the MP for Mangia to go there. Direct without, Nambeshe never went because he's the only one who can. Even him, he can. So there is no unique Ugandan who should access Parliament on the basis that the other one is a more chaotic, less chaotic. If Parliament is a reflection of Ugandans, if they are chaotic, so you allow all chaotic Ugandans enter Parliament. Is why when you see that our representation is going on lagging, just not even in Ugandans, mediocre is overtaking. We are creating a lot of mediocres in politics, but that is a reflection of the constituency. We create beggars, it means the constituency is full of beggars. We create the people, money lenders, it means the constituency is full of money lenders. A parliament is a reflection of the constituency. If there are thieves, no thieves, we are in Christmas, no theft is high in our villages, and it's true. Where I come from in Bududa, even gangs now can steal people as high as 6. So when you see MP stealing, it is a reflection of our society. That MP from Bududa steals iron sheets. It is possible that if you leave your iron sheets out in Bududa, they will be stolen. It is not a lie. So the status of rule of law, like my brother Ginyera said, Uganda, I think we should be honest ourselves and say that whereas we have had a lot of wise men in Uganda's legal history, and more are here coming there, and we have never, actually if you check, the reason why people like P.L.O. Lumumbas and those who went to University of Dar es Salaam and what have dominated this corridor is because their country has empowered their practice of law. They can speak and see that what they speak is being implemented. They have grown in societies that empower rule of law. So even their practice is empowered. You cannot be a good lawyer in Uganda when you have to getting bail for your client. He's again whisked and rearrested. You're made to look a funny lawyer that if you won in court and then your client again is again whisked. Again, you look for that individual, yet the money you signed in the initial contract has even already expired. But again, the relatives will hate you that you are money-minded. To again move every prison, is he here, is he here? So it's why I told you when I think of being a lawyer in Uganda, when I'm sleeping,
I wake up and wash my face.
Mm-hmm.
I go back and sleep.
Well, thank you so much
In a
for.
second, there's a lecturer who normally mentions something to support that statement. He tells us to the class that, but I wonder what you guys be thinking about. How can you study law in a lawless country? So they ask us why you wake up early to study law.
Wow, interesting submissions you guys have made. So I think let's take a short break, and when we return, we'll be discussing constitutionalism versus the independence of courts and those other arms on different institutions. So yeah, let's take a short break, and when we return, we'll just touch into that. Thank you so much.
Digital rights are those human rights and legal rights that allow individuals to access, use, create, and publish digital media or to access and use computers, other electronic devices, and telecommunication networks. Digital rights include a right to freedom of expression, information and communication through technology, a right to privacy and data protection, a right to credit for personal works, a right to universal and equal digital access, a right to identity, a right to anonymity, a right to be forgotten, and a right for protection of minors, among others. The state's digital rights are frequently violated through various unfair actions, for example, blockage of websites and social networks, theft of credentials, unauthorized use of people's data for personal gain, privacy intrusion, online censorship, arrests and intimidation of online users, internet blockages, and the proliferation of laws and regulations that undermine the potential of technology to drive social, economic, and political development worldwide. It is hence every citizen's responsibility to respect rights of other digital users and to speak out or report to the responsible parties when one's rights are violated.
Welcome back from that short commercial break, and like we promised, we shall be now focusing more on the independence of our courts of law back here in Uganda. So guys, I would like to get your students' perspectives, like we said the topic is, on what the successes have been.
In as regards to the independence
Of courts.
of courts, and I think the broader spectrum of the judiciary, it's also embedded in our constitution, the doctrine of the separation of powers, that in any running of government, in any democratic republic, there shall be three arms of government. One of it being the legislature, another being the executive, and the other being the judiciary. And in the running of all these organs, none of which shall be in contact of each other. That when the executive is operating, the judiciary shall not infringe on what the executive is doing, neither shall the executive infringe on what the judiciary is doing. Though later the concept had been a little, has evolved over time to incorporate the other principle of checks and balances, that where the executive goes overboard, the judiciary shall have power to check it. So the judiciary is given power to check it. So I think even in the broader spectrum of things, and in how we look at all these things, in a sense, the judiciary is cornered. It has a very big role, but neither does it have the guns, neither does it have the finances. So in a sense, in the arms of government, I would want to believe, or in my opinion, the judiciary is left as the weakest arm of government, actually. Albeit it has the most important role of adjudicating between the executive and checking on the excesses of power of the executive and the legislative. So over time, like I mentioned in the precursor, there's been a lot of infringement of the exercise of duty of the judiciary in Uganda over the course of history. That very many courts, the executive has gone a long way in meddling in the hands of what the judiciary is doing. During the break, someone mentioned, I think it was actually during the submission that Wamakota made, that today, if we're to be governed by the rule of law, then if me, Ginyera, today I got my practicing certificate and the client looked out for me and got me, we go to court, we ascertain the terms of bail, court grants bail, but at the entrance, there's a numberless pickup or a numberless drone that comes and then picks up my client. So I don't think that would be respect of independence of judiciary. Because basically what independence of judiciary means, or independent of court decision means, is that when court today makes a ruling, when court today makes a position, that position shall be respected by the two arms of government.
Coherence.
Yes, yes, he raises a very good notion. That's coherence. That today, if the judiciary says that this plot of land or this person land was unlawfully taken, no armed men are going to come and actually protect the land again from the people that from which it was taken. That a decision is made, a person is granted bail. I think I don't know whether the people on the panel have heard of what transpired. I think it was the Black Mamba, the first invasion of court by armed men. I think it was in 2005.
I was there.
Yeah, It was a terrorist. Were they terrorists?
Before terrorists, they had applied them on BSG in court.
On BSG
Black
in court.
Mamba came with tankard.
So
The
you
very
understand.
time Obote's dead body was being returned here to Uganda.
So those are basic examples, and there are very many examples to show to it where courts of law have made a decision and the executive have in a sense not followed it. And the repercussions of this is that when what Masawi and Wamakota mentioned is that when those that are at the helm of the law do not follow the law, it has a trickle-down effect on the citizenry in their abidance with the law. Is that when today a court decision is made to the effect that possibly NEMA evict a certain businessman from a wetland, but because a businessman is well connected or well placed in the government, influential in a sense, that decision is not followed. Then if today a person in Lubiji also makes up a small and you know this is just a continuous cycle.
Yeah, sure.
That if this one doesn't follow, it will have a negative effect on the citizenry, and that's how we have a lawless citizenry that comes up in Uganda. And as we head up still, and my point of emphasis will be to the general elections, there's a lot of bad things, as we have seen, for at least the past election cycles that have been well aware of what is going on through the media or even actually on ground. There are a lot of terrible, terrible things that go on during this process, that very many things are not followed. People are killed broad daylight on the street, people are abducted, security is doing this and this and this. So I think in the furtherance of constitutionalism, because the judiciary is actually an organ that is created by the law, governed by statute, there are mechanisms as to which the judiciary actually follows. And when you superimpose the high-handedness of the executive, because like I mentioned, and because the judiciary is put in a sense in some sort of corner, that the executive has the guns, it has the finances, so it can, and now what you have in Uganda, and one of the reasons why actually it kills the whole doctrine of separation of powers is that by our constitutional standard, it's actually the executive that appoints
the judiciary.
Which
is a conflict of interest.
You understand. So in a sense, it's an overlapping thing that it's
a
what you have
of
today.
The
And I would want us to borrow from what happened in Kenya, that during the protests, the judiciary actually played a very, very instrumental role in some of the things that transpired in Kenya. Wamakota, like myself, had friends who were arrested during the March to Parliament protests. So people were arrested. Like, I think the protest started on 21st March, May? I'm not sure. When students were protesting against corruption. So people are arrested. When they're arrested, they are kept in detention up until 5. So when they're produced to court, the presiding magistrate says that, you know what, it's past court working hours. These people are going to be remanded. Then they shall be brought back after 2 weeks or 3 weeks. So you understand that what you have in Uganda today is that the judiciary and the executive are actually working in
the judiciary is a representative of executive appointment,
so to speak. Juxtapose it with what happened in Kenya, that the Supreme Court passed a notice that all courts were obliged or obligated to work past working hours to make sure that every protester that was arrested was processed and granted what? And granted bail. Equally, even in Kenya, before the president deploys military intervention in regards to stopping these strikes, they must apply. And this thing can be bounced back by
Kenyan
the court.
judicial even annulled an election. And
You
we had to
understand?
repeat an
Cool.
election.
And these
Go
are
ahead,
actually
Sam.
these are now, and I don't think such a situation can actually happen in Uganda. You've had even the Tojikwacha case was where the judge, if you read the whole case, they were in support of the basic structure of the constitution, that you can't do away with certain things of the constitution. But in the end, they just said, no, the parliament has power to amend. Because if you were to look at the basic structure of the constitution, something as pivotal as the term limit or as the age limit of a president, that is something that cannot be played around with. But the judge also mentions that, but still goes away with.
But was it a non-derogable provision? Of
No,
the
it wasn't
Constitution?
in non-derogable, but in the case itself, they mentioned that there's a basic structure doctrine. It's called the basic
BSP.
structure doctrine. That in the Constitution, whether non-derogable or derogable, there are certain things that cannot be done away with. And actually, when you look at our preamble, it says that owing to our past history, what we had before, where we didn't have term limits, neither did we have age limit. That's the history that we have. But because we have learned from our past mistakes, we have incorporated some of these things within our documents.
So they were the basic structures.
The basic structure. See, Simon, I don't know why I'm a very big fan of Karo. So I keep on losing
Cultural
track.
exchange. It's okay. It's okay.
So I
It's
keep on
okay.
losing track. I may
Sorry.
start my Uganda here. But it goes back to what I think Masawi mentioned. No, it wasn't Masawi. That if today I'm going out of the public, there are certain things that I can't really do. Even if I'm allowed to do them, there are certain things that we can't go away to. Yeah. So I think right now what you have today is judicial independence is at its all-time low. Court decisions are not being respected. But it goes back to some of those foundational things, like the president having the power to appoint the chief justice. You know, in the law, it's incorporated that the appointment of the president shall be further looked into by the Judicial Service Commission, which is just a rubber
Also
stamp.
appointments by the
You
president.
understand?
Can I request a little light, if it's okay? Can I have a context of how it was in 1995 when we just had the Constitution, on how the Judicial Service Commission works? Okay, how the judiciary is and comes to be in place, and how it is today, how it transformed to how it is today, in context with what is in, maybe as we brainstorm from Kenya.
From Kenya.
As you make it a summary.
Oh, a summary. So, post the 1995 Constitution, the law, I think, I don't know, I forget.
I think go to 1966 if you...
Let's use 95.
Because
then we shall know whether it's the current government's problem that the president appoints, or it has been a provision.
Now what we have actually is that the priorities actually are represented. What Aruho said, that in a sense we do not have the rule of law, but we are being led by the law, because some of these things actually, their justifications are in the law. Because when you say, hey, president, but he has the power to appoint in the Constitution through the Judicial Service Commission. Unlike Kenya, for example, where I would give an example still like of the Electoral Commission, that we are going into the Electoral Commission, but the president has the power to appoint Biabakama, which is not the same for Kenya. You understand?
What Kenya was doing was what was.
And ironically, still, the 2010 Kenyan Constitution is just a replica of what we have. Most of the things that they have
is what we had.
Is what we have, because they followed very much what is in our 2000 in our 1995 Constitution. The difference is, and I think the difference in everything is the application. That in Kenya, the courts can have the power. You understand? They can have the power to do certain things, while us, we don't
Makes
have the power.
them independent.
Makes them independent.
Sure.
Yes. Over practice.
That's quite an interesting submission. Now, talking about the independence and then the how things are done across the borders, in your perspective, Aruho, do you think if we promote the role of the legal profession, I mean, we have around what, like 7,000 lawyers or something, do you think it could counteract the way we are operating in terms of constitutionalism, rule by law, rule of law?
Yeah. Maybe just start with, if you have the basic compliances with constitutionalism, the constitution as a whole, rule of law, then you'll have cream. I don't know if it's my own submission, but I think I would widely think, because now from Cavendish Law School and our lecturers, and the few friends I know in the legal space, as well as those in GSC, the Judicial Service Commission, the ones that I know, I would believe firmly that almost every advocate in Uganda followed with love and passion the impeachment scenario that happened in Kenya, because there was a live proceeding and everything was being followed to date. So it puts you as the judicial officer at the spot of, I ought to follow the law. Now, come to the Great Republic of Uganda. There are some cases where media is refused to enter. Yeah, especially if you go just down here to Buganda Road.
Does that what article is it? Is it 29?
28. fair
28.
hearing. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
No,
there's about the right to either have a hearing public or not.
No. There's this one where we have, I don't know if it's freedom of press or something. It could be in one the journal.
All that comes down to the Bill of Rights. So what I'm telling you is that when you have it comes down to, he already told you, and the comrades, it comes down to the basic understanding of what does our Constitution stand up for, because everything goes back to your past history. It gives you a drive of where you guys are supposed to be, what should be followed, whether you're in office or not. Because this office is, again, a temporal. You come, you leave. But the impact you live in, as you said, these things have been amended over and over time. It just, you're saying the Kenyan Constitution and then the Ugandan Constitution, they are more or less the same. The applicability to that very extent is very different. Here you have someone, and he said, of what use will it be if I am his lawyer, because you said he's a politician. If I'm his lawyer, and we undergo the basic steps, civil procedure steps, we go, we ask for bail, and court later on grants him bail, and we are still in court. We are still on court premises. And I come out with him knowing, and him, his supporter, we come out knowing, the man has been granted bail. We are going on to other things. Our mind at that time is other things. Lo and behold, at the exit, someone is giving us an interest into a drawing. It beats the basic understanding of rule of law. That means someone, somewhere at the helm, is playing the card of rule by law. Someone at the helm is playing the card of, the Uganda. Someone at the helm is
having
saying,
a ripple effect, huh?
Yes. Someone at the helm is saying that whereas you guys do these things, you need to know that that court you're from, it's me who appointed that person.
Wow.
We've had those instances actually.
You understand? That the judgment is from we're in Aruho's court, but I'm the one who appointed him. Even me myself, I'll be seated inside there. But these are discussions we all know. I'll be seated there and I'm like, now, this guy is the one who funded me, or is the one who appointed me. You yourself,
how
it
do
will
I
beat
make
you.
like
You're
a
like, now,
judgment?
yes.
Contrary.
You've read, let me actually break this down very well. You've seen what Justice Esther Sachi is passing through. If you read the judgment in, and all the judgments she has made,
And
but more recently,
2021,
it was very dissenting. So someone is asking himself, but I appointed this lady. Why would she do this? So you're being pushed to the zone of, imagine a Supreme, if you just want to understand how bad this is a Supreme Court judge fleeing, going into exile.
They are not more than 100.
That is bad. That just shows you that even me, the basic Ugandan.
There is a time we had only 14 in service in this country.
If him, a Supreme Court judge, can run from his country of origin, going into exile, then how about a magistrate? Because he's a Supreme Court judge. How about that one who hasn't gone into office yet?
Who is hopeful
Hopeful.
for an appointment?
It beats the very understanding. How about the person who doesn't know the law? Because
the three of us are actually scared now.
No, I mean it's the basic understanding. If a Supreme Court judge can, and you saw that during March Parliament, he has told you these people were picked up, but then they had to be given bail. But you had someone telling you, oh, court has official hours, which is true. It has official working hours, but
Deliberate, not
it was a political move. Someone is seated and knows, this thing has what? What's wrong with you guys? It was corruption. Where were you going? We're marching to parliament. Who picked you?
How did
So
you
and
come today at non-official hours?
In my mind, I would know.
arrested at 12.
In my
At
mind, I
actually
will
10.
know. Actually, I think the big people have an interest in this matter. So, let me say, let them be remanded for now because we are not in official working hour. But most likely, I'll not be the one to handle that case because I don't.
As I make consultation.
As I make consultation with a big man, so I'll have to go and I call, Bagay, how do we do this? And it beats. That means you don't have the basic interpretation or understanding of independence, because independence means that you guys can sit. You have a thorough insight. Me as a judicial officer, when that scenario happens, I make a judgment without my consultation is with the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda. I'll make a judgment with regards to that. And I expect that judgment to be complied to till its very dot. You understand?
Yeah,
that if he's brought in as a if he's brought in under charges of corruption, and I make a judgment regarding that, I expect, if I say he's going to go in jail for 15 years, they ought to be 15 years. Unless, obviously, these things don't work in a cloud. Somehow, somewhere, in everybody, Uganda, somehow, somewhere, and things disappear from there.
Yeah.
He has his right to apply,
Appeal.
for an appeal. He can go to court of appeal. They're saying, yes, that is there. They're saying, but if it reaches that stage, that is fine. But I don't expect to pass a ruling on him, then somehow, a certain person X pardons him for corruption, then tomorrow we have him heading the anti-corruption unit. To the normal Ugandan, I will look stupid. But then why in the first place did I do that? But then you see, also career-wise, that means that person is going to hold me. With the magistrates we know who have been in the same office 15 plus years. Why? They made a judgment that was way contrary than what the person above.
They did what is right.
Yes, they did what is right. You understand? So it's just that whole basic
And the
thing.
younger one was born, has been promoted and overpassed them.
Overly. So it just, so if you're asking about independence of judiciary, yes, to a certain extent there is independence. And yes, to a certain extent there is no independence. Because now there are cases people are not interested in, divorce, what, I'll make those ones will be followed. But to the extent that cases have a political interest in them, I think those cases by and large have not really been respected. I wouldn't want to talk about the best cases because you've talked about it, but it gives you just basic understanding of these things.
So like to return you to the other sub question that I had added. So we have, like, for example, the ULS. We are seeing many structural changes that you guys are so interested in. Do you think it's something that could be replicated on the wider scope?
Yeah, the current Uganda Law Society is under the leadership of Senior Counsel, His Excellency Semakade.
Tana.
And
Hashtag.
hashtag Atana, back on track. And before I come to you, I think by and large we needed this sort of revolution. I don't know whether I love it. But by and large we needed this. Because you see, the principles they were standing for, demilitarization and democratization and all these things.
They are true.
They are true.
And fundamental.
We've had, because we did just start law school when Semakade was president. By the time we came in, I came in during the tenure of Senior Counsel President Fiona Wall. Then we moved into Bernard Owundo. But throughout that whole legal regime, things happened, and the Uganda Law Society was nowhere to be seen.
Yeah, it was.
Otherwise, you had those of Counsel Semakade then, as he was then, when he was under the NetPIL, Network of Public Interest Lawyers in Uganda. That was a team that had Counsel Walemera, Daniel Walemera. It had Counsel Isaac Semakade, as he then was. You had Counsel Gawaya Tegule, lawyer Malema Wilizi. That team was very fundamental. You would say it was the Uganda Law Society acting incognito. Because they wouldn't just stand there, you being picked, and they're quiet. They had the mandate of saying, no, I think we need to follow A, B, C, and D. That's why you see in the best case scenario, Council Aaron Chiza said, guys, I came prepared. I'm reading the law and you're reading rhetoric. It's just the basic. But if I by and large, again, I thank God that Isaac Semakade said, guys, I think I need to contest. Not because it's very radical. No. There are things that need to be put away on, a stop to. That is it demilitarization? We've had a lot of military intervention in civilian cases. We need to have an end. At least let's have an end to that. We've as a country, that's why I was telling you.
I've seen ULS do like a trial watch for BCJ as well.
I try.
A bit like a team that does like watch the trial and stuff. Well, what's the whole point behind it? I think they have like a team of lawyers from ULS who are representing somehow.
When you say
trial watches,
pro bono free.
I guess so, but it's more, to me, it's more of them wanting to be directly involved to, I don't know, to put right the wrongs that could go wrong, because everything is already going wrong. I mean,
the Uganda Law Society is an umbrella body for all lawyers in the country, advocates and everything. So things like pro bono services, that is free legal services, come as part and parcel. That's why you see in when these people were put in, you tried seeing senior counsel Bernard Oundo coming in, but that was at a very minimal level. We are saying that it should have been done at the very first time and with energy. That's why you're seeing, though obviously some things our president does like this, but by and large I think is moving on fine. I think the Uganda Law Society.
Which things does he?
Some.
He has done like this.
Some.
But all aimed at
yes, getting the result. Some none of us works in a sphere of isolation. So some, yes, we are not perfect, but I think by and large,
but it's perfect.
It's good. It's very good, because I wouldn't detest, because while we're under NetPeel, we're under his mentorship.
I see Hash Team back on track.
No, what I'm saying
Some
this is because
don't seem to be.
no, I'm saying that is because in my year one, I happened to volunteer with NetPeel, as I told you. And this gentleman taught us the law, not from black and white, but also on the ground. That guys, look, there is what law school teaches, there is what the law says, and there is what reality says.
And this is how.
So you're given
We
that,
went on reality.
Yeah, you see all the extremities, and then
Yes.
now the gaps, what to like address in your
Yes, so
different capacities.
I think the legal regime in Uganda needs, coming back to you, I think the legal regime in Uganda needs a redecolonization. That we need to look and think way beyond putting on black and white suits, blue and white suits, to coming down to what really matters on the ground. That is it.
Masawi, could we please talk about strengthening networks in terms of...
You're addressing Masai, but looking to Alex. So
I want it to lead to him somehow, because later I want him to look into, from his point of view as a politician, I want him to look into these institutional linkages, if they really will work. So that's why I'm looking at him as I address the question to you, so that he can...
first of all, I can say if politics is for politicians, then I've done politics for more than the time I've even done a lot of things. You can never underestimate leadership. Power is very dangerous. The practices, institutions, and habits in a country are also a reflection of who leads that country. The practices of our Ugandan leaders, even Obote reached of implementing a pigeon constitution in this country when he wanted to deal with the Baganda. Amin did it, he abolished the constitution when he wanted to deal with the Acholi. So the Langis go out and he remains with these people from the Rugbar. Whom if you look to him when you're smiling, he can ask you why you're laughing until he has beaten you to death. But has had both double standards of the same law. I think Uganda, we have just never had a president who is constitutional in nature. I cannot say Museveni is far the worst, but it has been our culture. We are still struggling to get a president who is branded, who is branded as a constitutional abiding citizen. Whether it's Aruko, we are still struggling to get a messiah. A president who will come through the law. We vote a president by law who has not killed anyone in an election, who has just won an election independently, been announced honestly. Then he comes to, sorry, I don't know, okay, we always think heaven is far, but for Ugandans, we still have very many things which are very far besides heaven. You can die and you've never seen that in Uganda. So, I've listened to my brothers here who have showed they now clearly understand the profession they are in. Because in Uganda, very many people study, but some may not understand what they are in, like these ones understand. To have time,
Are they like changing your opinion in
you
case?
you don't need to change my opinion over what? They need to change the societies. They
No, he's
exist.
saying,
They
he's
speak
saying your
opinion
opinion,
about-
your opinion on studying the law.
on studying the law. I've told you, why should I study the law in a country of lawlessness? The first Messiah we need in Uganda is not Jesus. Is having a law-abiding president. Guys, we have underestimated the value of leaders. Leaders reflect characters and values in society. If a leader bends depending on who is dealing with, Nelson Mandela did mention that if you bend your principles depending on who you're dealing with, then you're not worth to lead the nation. We have had a lot of mediocres in terms of presidents in this country. Some because they ate a lot of flour, they had more energy than others. Others because they felt they are entitled, they were strong. Others, being a president in Uganda has been about strength. Can you raise muscle? The gun? Can you beat? Do you have network and people who are energetic? You leave us who be there confusing ourselves that someone can go and win Museveni in the ballot paper or by even talking hate speech about him. He will laugh at you because he knows where he got power from. It was not about abusing people or what. He did something extra. He went an extra mile. So, the biggest challenge this country is facing is not that we have 3 million leaders. If we divide 3 million leaders by 45 million, at least everyone 50,000 people have a leader. We have to, our budget on public service alone was 9.8 trillion in the last financial year. Public service alone paying leaders, not higher than anything else, just paying leaders. And yet if you look at the public service, we only have 510,000 workers in public service. In a country of 45 million, you can't even employ 1 million. But when you look at the cost you spend on 510, if you decided to get 9.8 trillion and do your mathematics on 45 million, each Ugandan would get like around 720,000 if you decided to share the salaries of these 510. It beats logic. The challenges the legal institution is facing are a reflection of what the education systems are. These habits have even reached our families. They are in our hospital, even our villages. It is now a norm being corrupt, being double standard in a village.
Look at the politician.
No, you look wise. You look wise in this country if you're double standard. Because those are the values, the characters the country is upholding. Lawlessness. Even the lawyers who be trying to do what is lawful are faced with an environment where they will have to bend. Like you saw Aruko do this, a side mirror. He meant that even when he's pushing, there are those that where he's also defeated and he also does what? Bend or branch off to go and take water and bathe, then come back and refuse to bathe and say it's never. But when he went to shower, the environment created by leadership in every America's history has been built on some of the radical leaders it has had. Not Abraham Lincoln or coming along to all those leaders that have gone through to the Kennedys, to the Trump. But leaders are key. He was bringing an argument of Kagame over influencing constitutionalism. It's not that we refuse it, but Kagame should bring in the positivity of how the constitution should be applied, not to offend it, but should build a culture and environment of how application of his values, because Rwanda has some good values like theological ones, on how they are managing theology. Here in Uganda, you have everyone gambling that you take soda, you will receive miracles in the week.
We have a lot of
after
mushrooming
even the
churches
president,
and-
you find him complaining. These ones, my neighbors, at all sense, they make noise for me. He's complaining of noise. Really, a man with power, and because he needs them during political cycles, he does things double standard. If we had sit here, the 5 of us, the 4 of us, even him is in politics. You know, Uganda Law Society, you'll be like a guild president of lawyers. Don't be deceived that you're special. He's a guild president of Cavendish. Their guild president is Semaka, because it is 1 year, isn't it? Isn't it 2 years? 2 years is just similar to a term of a guild president. Why I say it is 1 year, the time you take to pass policy and even just get your budget and everything working is even less than a year to do real work. Why some academy achieve more than the Kinoves, the Gimaras, those that I followed very well, is that him being radical may not go along to respect all procedural issues to achieve some of the things he intends to achieve. Because his role is to incite. Leaders need to influence. You don't need to be a manager. Why Semakade has progressed with a campaign that has awakened Ugandans, that even a border man will discuss why wechibina kyabaloya bano abambala suuti nga muzeeyo oli gola bawan, is because he was influential. Leaders should be influential. This country has only one man who has said is the one, is Museveni. The rest around him are all mediocres. It is very dangerous. You meet second year at Christ the King, you can't know he's a former speaker and vice president. He's in his open, he's as if he's dozing, as if he's looking at you. But if those are the kind of people who set a bar for role models to question the country as the advisory council, is a senior presidential advisor, he should be more engaged with the citizenry so that he gets feedback as a stakeholder to advise the president. But you don't understand whether he's dozing, whether he's seeing. He enters church, he prays in the evening at 5, he enters his car and goes home. The challenges Uganda is facing are not that because of we have duplicated anti-corruption enforcement, we have duplicated law, even law. We now had the Nakalemas acting as courts. We have had now certain brigade also is anti-corruption unit, is like a court which has been, we have had IGG, we have a lot of duplication in terms of legalities. There is nothing we have duplicated. Where even MPs want, because they are legislators, they have also duplicated some roles in the legislation because they establish them in terms of legislation. So the crisis caused is, I want my brothers to never take leadership as something small. The kind of we have had very funny leaders here in Uganda who are very violent and very disrespectful of the rule of law. But we shall come up. Even Lukwago himself who lies people in Kampala that he represents the rule of law. In FDC, we wanted to overthrow other people without passing through the law. But you find him around Kampala, I'm the Lord Mayor, rule of law. Lukwago himself is a very funny man. In DP was doing the same. He wanted to overthrow Mao.
Thank you so much, Masawi,
we need to speak
for that insight. I think your answer to strengthening networks has to be reflective leadership.
Whatever we need in this country, whether the legal, whether the judiciary, whether our hospitals, even me in the infrastructure, should be systematic, should be institutionally built on values and foundations.
Okay.
We should not speak of what we can't achieve. We come here to waste time. At what index are we assessing the evaluation that we are causing impact?
I think the guys in the streets have heard. I hope those who belong to the league that you have talked about, I hope they will be better leaders. Now, as we wrap this up, Alex, about the institutional linkages, that's why I wanted you to go after him. What do you think this would do for the rule of law in Ugandan constitutionalism?
I think, as you said, I will give a context as a politician, but I also love the fact that someone has reflected on Lukwago's conduct. In leadership, there are politicians, there are leaders, then there are individuals that have both. And to run governments and the state, you need both. You can't do with only leadership. You will fail, definitely. Because the impacts of leadership are felt mostly when you leave. Mostly. But then sometimes they can be felt when you're there. But then that means you'll need to play the politics. Now, the degree of you being a politician or a leader or both is not entirely something you can decide as an individual. You can only choose that you are a politician, just as I told you. Now, the people that you lead are the ones that reflect whether you are a leader or you are both. You get? To some point, I want to disagree with the Honorable Masawi that I agree that yes, the leaders are a reflection of the society, but when it comes to our president, he's not a reflection of the society. As far as much as I know, I have read about all our past leaders.
So me, I have not read.
I'm giving you my context. That's why I told you as far as I know. When I look at Obote, when you put him in context of the fellows they fought independence with, in context with the Nyerere, in context with the Nkurumas, the discussions they used to have in their meetings and the vision they had for an Africa. You look at someone who fought for the independence of his country, yes, but wanted to be the president. It was not entirely fighting for the independence of the country, but I'm fighting for it's just like Ariho going to fight for a constituency to be given in his place, not because he wants the services of the constituency, but because he wants to be the member of parliament.
It is similar to Museveni going to the bush. Why has he refused to be life president?
Yes,
he wanted to be president.
I'm still coming. Now, when it comes to Obote, to Idi Amin, it was entirely leadership. And even when he was there was no election. There was no even signs of having another leader. Now, when it comes to Museveni, he wanted to be a president. You get? But his moves have been planned. I think he had like a 30, 40-year plan of his fight. That's why very few things happen as a coincidence to him, if you follow him very well. And whatever is happening in this country, the mess we are in, the levels of corruption, they are because he wants them to be that way. If Museveni chose that he wants this country to move like a Tanzania, it will. Trust me. Because all the people in government have so much, not respect,
They survive
so
on
much
him.
fear on him,
Dependence.
that his decision is like a supreme decision. That's why when he told you these agencies must go, they had to, regardless of how best they impact the society. When he chooses that this will stay, it will stay. You get? So whatever is happening in this country, and someone of that caliber, I don't think is a reflection of Ugandans. Because for us Ugandans, it's about, this is there.
Yeah, but someone who organizes people
But
to go and switch off lights in parliament, to grab a few.
Yes.
The same thing can happen in Bududa, where LC5 chairman, if he's wanting to impeach a councillor and has the money and
Now,
the sources of military,
his-
he will do the
listen,
very things Museveni
listen.
has done in Bududa.
These people, now the current leaders, are just learning from their leader.
That is what
It's
I
not a
want to
reflection.
accept.
Now it is actually
When they
becoming
learn from you
a
is a
reflection of the
reflection.
other. So that is it. But when we get into independence of organs of government, we can never achieve it. We can never achieve it. Everything, every arm of government is dependent on the executive. You get? If the president chose,
even the
that,
executive is also dependent on Museveni. I think for now, in the current context, even the executive is dependent on him, the head.
I think I have a wrong context of executive. Me, when I talk of executive, I talk of Museveni. In this government, I don't talk of the cabinet and so on. It is entirely Museveni when you talk about the executive. Now, you see, people think the legislative arm is a bit free. No. There is no arm of government that is not dependent on the executive. The president chooses what benefits go to parliament.
Who will be the speaker?
Who will be the speaker? But besides, you see, who will be the speaker and so on are just things that we see. People don't reflect on how many people are employed in parliament and how they are, and their influence onto parliament. You understand? So everything that runs around parliament is entirely what the president wants. He appoints the judiciary. You get? So it's literally very hard to see us having independence of these organs. However, it's not too late. I think we can have a brighter future, but then it needs a very sober young generation that is so determined to change the status quo. And that does not mean we shall have a young generation that is informed and sitting in our homes with our information.
Oh.
It will call that all the young people out there where they are, they have a vision of how they want the different arms of government to be. Because 10, 15, 20 years from now, these young people are the ones going to be in these offices, and they are going to be facing the same problems if they don't do
You're already
anything about
late.
it.
You should be in some of these offices. In
No,
other countries, people at our age are going for promotion.
And also in context of why I think everything is that way, you know, every country that we benchmark with, we have had a different history than them. Our history is completely different with that of Kenya. Our history is completely different with that of Tanzania. Our history is too different from Ghana and so many other countries that have clear definitions of the arms of government. But, you know, when a country is coming from a state like we came from, a state of a hopeless society, they just need anything in place. So that leader that comes in and raises it up to the level that they think they have not been having, they normally be so much dependent on them. I personally think if John Pombe Magufuli was to rule TZ for 10 years, high chances are that he was going to decide on everything that runs in Tanzania. Up to today, if Mwalimu had anything he left on paper, the Tanzania people will follow it to the dot, because he was a hope to that society. Now, at the time when Chama cha Mapinduzi was falling, the only hope they had was Magufuli. Magufuli was not even the favorite candidate, but he was the only one that people believed in. He was the only one that still had the face of Mwalimu. So even the Jakayas, even if they didn't want him, they had no choice. But for the good of keeping the CCM, they had to choose him. And when they chose him, he brought back CCM to life. You get? Now, if he led for 10 years, chances are that Tanzania was going to move on his beat. But then we should also understand the fact that he was also he was a good dictator. People never talk about that, but John Pombe Magufuli was...
Is there anything like a good dictator?
Yes, they are. He was that positive dictator. There is no negotiation when it comes to service delivery.
Why are the guys in the streets silent about?
No, there is good dictation
there is
as
good
well.
dictatorship. So
actually, there are incidences.
Benevolent.
now, me
There are
what I think,
incidences. Even Museveni, in his dictation, he has been a wise one. But the challenge with him, when he's making a foolish one, is far away from the wise one.
now,
Anyways, as we wrap up, please.
the instance is there are states that will thrive, you know. But at a point when we are coming from a state where Museveni got to Uganda, if he is coming and is choosing to come as a dictator, he needs to be that very, very sober dictator. Because if he was, trust me, still by now, people would be voting for him like they do for Kagame. But the problem is he chooses to be radical today on a good thing, then he goes radical on a very, very hopeless
So he's
issue.
not coherent, he's not consistent at all.
That actually why most of us we don't agree with him. He has a lot of double standards.
Inconsistency.
It kills values. It gives birth. Leadership degenerates even in the children you produce. Is why my daughter resembles the grandmother who is my mom. So it is as a result of that. Leadership becomes genetic. Nature can create.
But ours, when you look at the Constituent Assembly, 1995, and then you look at our parliament and the current parliament, and you follow, you'll realize parliament is the value of members of parliament is dropping
Every year
out. We are now having members of parliament who, if they don't fight, they won't have votes. It's no longer an ideological ground.
All right, thank you so much, Alex. So, dear our viewers, it's been students' perspectives on constitutionalism and rule of law in Uganda. So, this is going to be our last show of the year. So, guys, let's keep it very brief. Our last remark could be one sentence, and then wish our viewers a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And we'll call it the show of the year.
Thank you very much, Derek. First of all, thanks has to go to Center for Constitutional Governance for giving us this platform this whole year.
I'm welcoming gifts on their behalf.
Okay, Derek. For giving us platform this whole year as young people to share in as regards to the various topics that have made headlines this year. Really, that's for giving us all this airtime and providing facilities that have been able to cover this. We are really, really, really very grateful. Equally, I think I'll be the only one who has done it this year to thank the production team. They'll correct me, but they've gone through great lengths to make sure that it's good coverage and that people are very appreciative out there. To my fellow panelists who have graced this show, the last show, I think it's a great honor to say bye on behalf of all the university students that have featured on this show, and to say a happy and Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to all persons who are watching us. Thank you very much.
Well, firstly, I would want to thank the Center for Constitutional Governance, which works in partnership with Civic Space TV. I'd really thank them from the bottom of my heart because they have been part and parcel of my leadership development right from the year 2020. And we're now closing 2024, we're going to 2025. I think it's a team that has been not only consistent, but have shown great stability in terms of bringing out credit-worthy information, but then also youth empowerment, amongst very many other things, civic education being their top tier. And also the production team, which has highly been on the ends of quality production, both videography and photography. I think they are state of the art. I also do want to thank them. But then for calling us up to close up the year with a talk on constitutionalism, I think it's very key. We would have been closing the year with a lot of different talks. But the fact that we want to close the year with regards to constitutionalism, it embodies what the principles of CCG stand for, and that is constitutional governance. I think the whole discussion of rule of law, constitutionalism, whether you are a teacher, whether you are a serviceman, whether you are a lawyer, when we have bad leadership, it affects you. But then also when you have good leadership, it affects you. And this pushes me to my next goal, that all people who are in offices, be it university leadership or in any leadership you're on into, you need to know that that office you're holding is not, you're not the first person in that office, and neither are you the last. But the principles you carry along will either make a good name for you, which is hard to build, but then also can break it, which is very easy to do. So I pray that we uphold the true virtues of leadership. But then to any other Ugandan or person in diaspora watching us, we do wish you, from the team and I, we do wish you a happy, Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Thank
God
you.
bless all.
Thank you so much, Ariro and Alex.
Thank you. One wise man said the future of the forest is not determined by the number of mature trees in it, but the number of young ones. I twist it a little that the value of the forest's future is determined by the value of the young trees in it. I thank the Center for Constitutional Government for building the young generation, but also instilling a dignity in them through such debates. Also want to thank the team behind the camera. We rarely do so. Thank you, Brittany and Paul, for always serving us to the best. Thank you. I wish you Merry Christmas and a prosperous New Year for God and my country.
Thank you so much, President General among the nations.
I think I've been very notorious in making noise for the technical team that is Para and you throughout the whole 2024. So I thank them for the service because the TV is what
And for the tolerance.
Yeah, they have tolerated my noise. I don't think anyone gives them headache as I do. So I want to thank them because the TV is what it is because of the productions they air, the quality that they try to serve our viewers. So our viewers as well, I want to thank you all from the different universities, non-universities. We began this year, I think I was even on the first show of the year with Drake. We want to thank you for keeping it with us up to December. We pray that you have a blessed festive season and a prosperous 2025. Thank you.
Well, that was it from our panelists, and to our partners, our sponsors, to our team at CCG, to the media team back here. May you also have yourselves a beautiful Christmas and a happy, prosperous New Year. Thank you so much for standing with us the whole of 2024.